we have two amazing speakers here. Those of you who live here in Dubai and in the region will know the gentleman immediately on my left. But I'm going to give him his full SP, his full title, and do it with energy and dignity. My colleague on the left was appointed as the CEO of the Dubai Future Foundation in February 2018. And the DFF was launched by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and ruler of Dubai. And this was to play a pivotal role in shaping the future of Dubai, because of course this country and others in the area are under great pressure to diversify, because we're being told we no want to rely on fossil fuels. We want to look at sustainable energy, low carbon energy. So what will that look like, and how will it affect the people who work and live in this region and beyond? And then the woman to my extreme left, although I'm not sure politically, I'm joking, spent 17 years in the corporate world. She lived in this area for quite some time, working across McKinsey and Company, the Dubai government, and GE Capital.
And she's coming
She
back.
left a couple of years ago, and she's been on a mission to help women win.
Yes.
So let me introduce, first of all, the Chief Executive Officer of the Dubai Future Foundation, His Excellency Khalfan Belhoul. Say yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And we have Rana Nawas. And Rana, the woman who wants to help you all win. Rana Nawas, the podcaster extraordinaire. She hosts a podcast, When Women Win. Now, if you think about the framing of this whole discussion today, we've been talking about the power of influence. So I want to know, first of all, from our two colleagues, how powerful they feel. How much power do they have? And do they use it wisely? Do they use it responsibly? Rana, first of all, how powerful do you feel?
Listen, I'm on 1.5 hours of sleep. I have flown from Houston, and I'm 10 hours
Have you
jet
heard of a
lagged.
battery called Duracell? Maybe we need to give you some.
No, I'm good. How powerful do I feel? I feel empowered right here. I'm so delighted and excited to be here and to have this stage, to have this voice. Yes, of course. Do I use it responsibly?
Yes.
I'm hoping that having a podcast whose aim is to support women, to show them what's possible, to get learnings from boss ladies from all over the world and share those with women all over the world with the single purpose of helping them succeed. Yeah, I think I'm using it responsibly.
Very good. Thank you very much. Now, Your Excellency, Khalfan, how powerful do you feel, and how do you use your power and your influence? It's a big task on your head.
Okay, first of all, good afternoon. I'd like to thank everyone that survived with us for the last session today. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the Dubai Women Establishment for hosting us here in this amazing gathering. I admire your energy as well. Last session in the day, yes. I admire your Arabic accent as well. It's amazing.
Shukran, shukran.
But I have one last challenge for you.
Okay.
To pronounce my name correctly.
Okay, I'll do it again. His Excellency, Khalfan.
Without the excellency.
Okay,
component.
okay. My friend,
yes.
In Ghana, Madame Fo, which means my friend Madame Fo, Khalfan Belhoul.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well done.
Thank you very much indeed.
And I think to your point, and that's the luxury of letting women start, I actually had that exact answer ready for you when you said power, and she stole it away from me. But I think I wanted to add the M in front of the power, because I think we're so fortunate here in this region to be empowered. And delegation has been given to us from the leaders, and I think this is one recipe of success for the nation. Delegation, trust in leadership, trust in the youth, and empowerment is what led the United Arab Emirates to where it is right now. So I feel fully empowered and honored to be where I am.
Two great answers, please. Initially, let's get it started. Now, here's what's going to happen. We're going to have a conversation initially from here, and then for the first time today, we will do a Q&A. We have a number of microphones that will rove around the room, so you can ask a question or two or make a brief statement which will feed into our discussion. But we're looking ahead to the fourth industrial revolution, artificial intelligence, everything that will bring, blockchain. And Khalfan, you have a big task. Everybody got excited when the ruler created this position of ambassador for the future, the first ever in the world, and also created this future foundation. When you look ahead to the future, what do you see?
So I think the most important component in looking into the future is, first of all, trying to do as much research as possible, because the future is driven by as much study, as much facts as you can get to understand what are the global future challenges. How much impact will climate change have on us? Will we be driving cars in the future? Is education going to be confined to 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., or is digitization going to make education available at any time from a provider to a consumer? So I think it's all about how much research you put, and then based on that research, what is your environment or your region doing for you to test those kind of studies? And you will fail, and failure will happen when you talk about the future. Obviously, you're talking about a lot of variables, a lot of things that might not happen. And the further you go in your future, whether it's 10, 20, or 30 years, the larger the variables become and the higher the risk becomes. So I think it's all about creating the right environment to test new ideas, out of which some will fail. But if you create that right environment for new ideas to thrive, which we do in Dubai, I believe the sky's the limit on where you can reach.
Well, when you look at the institutes around the world that are tasked with looking ahead to the future, they're under great pressure to find alternatives to fossil fuel, alternatives to carbon, looking at finding ways of improving work-life balance. And I'm just wondering how high this agenda, the one we're talking about today and tomorrow, unleashing the power of women, influence, how high is that on your agenda? And how are you finding ways of improving what you're already doing here in Dubai?
Okay, so I mean, I'm not going to go and repeat all the stats that have been mentioned in the previous sessions about how women are empowered, specifically even in the UAE, and with the hopes to raise them even to higher numbers within the whole MENA ecosystem. But I think we need to leverage on those female graduates, leverage on their talents, and create different enablers that will help them thrive. We do this through different programs in the Dubai Future Foundation. We do it through research, like I said, through content dissemination and spreading the knowledge, through the Dubai Future Academy and educating people for the future. And maybe I'll mention a point to what you've mentioned in the beginning, and you said the Dubai Future Foundation and what has been happening globally. The way His Highness Sheikh Mohammed works is he sees an opportunity and he throws the idea or the seed for the people to execute. And this is what happened in the formation of the Dubai Future Foundation. We really had no clue how to benchmark Dubai Future Foundation against any other entity around the world, because it's simply something that you cannot really benchmark against. It's not something that's widely available like any other entity or institution that can be looked at globally. So he saw that opportunity in the World Government Summit around 4 years ago, where there were more than 3,000 delegates from all over the world discussing different global future challenges. So he saw that opportunity. He saw that there are high-level discussions solving global future challenges, like what we are having today, but specifically focusing on an agenda here. But that opportunity led to the formation of a foundation, led to also a Minister of Artificial Intelligence, led to the focus of areas that we believe can be better for humanity as a whole.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Now, Rana, you have lived in this region. You've now moved to the United States to, can I say, the lone star state. She's gone from Dubai to Texas. What was she thinking? What was she thinking?
Come on, we were getting her back. So
we need to bring her back. Need to bring her back.
Please bring me back.
Yeah.
So, what changes did you see as an empowered woman, as a businesswoman, as a woman working in the corporate environment during your time? How long were you here?
17 years.
17 years. How much did you see? How much change did you see?
I mean, Immense change,
Yes.
immense change. I think this awakening has been happening in the corporate world and in government at the same time. I mean, you know, Khalfan mentioned it, and we do need to say it again, that the MENA region is a very diverse region. And the UAE is very different to what's going on elsewhere. And so when I started my career, when I moved here about 18 years ago, and I was working for the Dubai government, we already had a lot of women in government, but they weren't making it to the top. And that's a big shift that you've seen over the last 15, 17 years, is that now, yes, it's great. They're not only 50%, 60% of the workforce in government. Actually, they're ministers.
Yeah.
And they're running semi-governmental organizations. So that's one of the shifts that I've seen. I mean, what we saw, and this leads to the future of work,
Yeah.
the government sets the tone. And this is really, really important in all the countries. And my sort of purview is MENA, right? And we have cultural barriers here that prevent women getting into the workplace, right? So if I'm looking ahead and I'm thinking what needs to change, we can learn from the success of the UAE, where the tone was set at the top and cultural change was pushed through by government.
Yeah.
And I think that's the role the government needs to play as we look forward to jobs, and I look across MENA. We need to change that culture, because the stats that we've had over the past few years have been alarming. I mean, may I share a couple?
Yes, please do.
In 2017, the United Nations surveyed 10,000 people across Egypt, Morocco, Palestine, and Lebanon. And for example, in Egypt, they found that 75% of women believed that they should have the same rights as their husbands to work outside the home after marriage. But only 31% of Egyptian men agreed, right? So we know, and we heard Karen from the World Bank earlier say, look, our women are very well educated in MENA. That's not our problem. In fact, we don't even have a STEM problem in a lot of the countries. In the UAE, 77% of computer science graduates are female.
Yes.
In Saudi Arabia, 55% of STEM grads are female. We don't have a STEM problem in the GCC. What we have is an entering the workforce problem. And so we need to tailor our solutions to our markets. And as we look forward and the problem we want to solve going forward, that's where the change needs to happen.
Okay, so let's look into our crystal ball. In fact, we don't have to look into a crystal ball, because I think some of you futurists know what is going to happen. Will the changes you want to see be enabled by the inevitability of technological change, AI, etc.? What do you think? Rana first.
Yeah, I think technological change offers, like with anything, there are threats and opportunities.
Yes.
Specifically,
let's deal with the opportunities first.
The opportunities, okay. So in opportunities, for example, what I just said, that in Egypt, and it's not just Egypt, by the way, they found in Morocco and in Palestine it was the same. So the ability for women to work outside the home, it's still a cultural taboo in many parts, right? So that's where technology comes in. So for example, we know that the people can do stuff online. This is empowering men and women. In Gaza, for example, you can get transcription and translation. You can get content created in Gaza. These are people who can't move, but here you are offering them opportunities that disproportionately help women. And I'm always for win-win for men and women, but disproportionately helps women. In Egypt, for example, these women who can't, for cultural reasons, work outside the home, well, guess what? Through technology, they're able to work inside the home. Even things like, there's meal services now, online platforms in Egypt that deliver meals, homemade meals to people in offices. And you have these women in their kitchens. They're cooking their meals and able to work. They sell them. And so I think technology brings a lot of women who otherwise wouldn't be able to join the workforce, brings them in. So I think it can be a good thing.
Khalfan, are you just as, I suppose, optimistic about the opportunities for improved gender balance that will be delivered by the technological change that we're all excited about?
Absolutely. I'm absolutely optimistic. Let's focus, first of all, on the advancement of technology and the impact on the fourth industrial revolution. First thing we need to take into consideration is the gap between one revolution and the other has been shrinking. and the dependency on technology in the fourth industrial revolution is higher than ever. The involvement of machine learning, the involvement of artificial intelligence, the involvement of robotics, those things will have a massive impact. But what this means as well is that the key word here is not men or women, it's inclusivity. Yeah. And I think having everyone involved is key, because adaptation is also something that's extremely important. If we do not adapt to the advancement of technology, which is inevitable, then we won't be in the lead. So I think it's embracing new technology. We understand that there are things that have to be heavily studied, whether it's the data-related regulations, whether it's the interaction and the openness between countries, accepting the jobs that will be changed because of automation. We cannot sit and wait for other nations or technologies to take our place. We need to adapt and switch, because the human being will always be required, and the human being will always need to innovate and adapt and change into whatever technology does not provide. So I think adaptation and inclusivity is absolutely key.
Can I jump in, Henry? Yes. And that's one of the reasons I think that women are very well placed for the future, right? You talked about adaptability. You talked about creativity. The world is getting ever more complex.
Yes.
We need people who can connect the dots. We need collaboration.
Absolutely.
You know, because there is nobody smart enough to connect all the dots on their own.
Absolutely.
So we need consensus builders. And this is where women are, I think, very well placed to take advantage of the jobs of the future.
Absolutely. And if you allow me jumping back again,
this is what we want, some kind of collaborative energy.
And but by the way, we'll then jump back on you and ask you a few questions. So
that's fine.
Yeah. So I think in the Dubai Future Foundation, our success story, based on the push of the leaders, is creating spaces and areas for different mindsets to rub shoulders. And the formula is very simple, but the results were absolutely phenomenal. We got entrepreneurs, men and women, venture capitalists, academia, the private sector, the government, all collaborate and rub shoulders in an area that we call Area 2071, which is 100 years since the formation of the UAE. Yes. So that's the code name for this space, and the level of engagements and MOUs that had happened unplanned because of this inclusivity and interaction.
Can you give us one or two examples of things that have come about because of this incredible sense of collaboration?
Sure. So I'll give you, we have a program called the 1 Million Arab Coders. And coding will play a massive role, whether we like it or not, in the future. And His Highness Sheikh Mohammed obviously emphasizing on the importance of coding, saying that in the future the illiterate will not be the person that doesn't read or write, but will be the person that doesn't code. But obviously, there's obviously reading and writing is important, but it's an emphasis of how important coding will be in the future. So launching that program, opening a space where we invite venture capitalists and we invite entrepreneurs who need coders. VCs are funding mechanisms for high-risk investments, i.e. Startups. Creating that environment where meetings flourish within this space, we suddenly hear about MOUs, investment transactions, coders having job opportunities within startups. And this is what you need to create. It's simply a melting pot within a melting pot of the UAE. So that's a secret of the success.
Wonderful. I'm just thinking about this, Rana. I'm thinking not just about the world of work, but about leadership, political and otherwise. And you have interviewed an awful lot of women from all over the world, a huge range of disciplines, and you've got under their skin, and you've got a sense of how they see the world and what might be coming. When you talk to them, what do you see? What do you think we're going to see when it comes to future leadership as a result of what is happening now?
Business or
business
political?
And political.
Political. So my world is the world of business.
Yes.
I don't really interview people from politics, but I think my personal feeling is that the biggest turning point, the biggest catalyst, the biggest accelerator for getting us to parity and making the world a better place is when we have more women running countries.
Right.
I think that is the ultimate sort of catalyst. So we need to get there.
Okay, I'm glad you said this. I'm going to test the two of you. Name 3 women leaders, women running countries.
As in leaders, I can name you 9 in the UAE.
Listen to him.
And they're all ministers, okay.
Looking beyond this region, can you think of women who are actually running countries with executive power, political power?
Today, well, I mean, there's been 140 ever. It's really not a long list. In the history of the world, well, I don't know how far back the number goes, but it's been about 140. I mean, if you think Jacinda Ardern, who's my hero, you have in Sweden, I mean, Taiwan, Liberia, Sierra Leone.
So I'm just wondering what then we can deduce about female leadership and what is different from male leadership and what is going to come, because we are definitely going to have more women leaders in countries around the world in the future, aren't we?
Yeah, so we don't need to deduce, we know for a fact, okay? So we know that women, regardless of where they sit on the political spectrum, are more consensus builders and tend to do bipartisan things. We know that they do this better. We know that female politicians are more likely than male politicians to substantively advance women's rights in all way, against sexual violence and anything like that. These are things we know. We also know, interestingly, that the top quartile in the most diverse countries, the most racially diverse countries, women leaders have much faster growing economies than men. So this analysis was done. They looked at the top quartile of most diverse countries and compared those being run by women to those being run by men. And they found that the ones run by women, on average, grew 5.5% their GDP the following year. Guess what the number was for men?
What was it?
1.
You see, now...
1.
You're making men leave the room now.
I'm just saying.
As Rana is speaking, Khalfan is smiling, but he's also shaking.
Yes, and I'm looking at men leaving the room, so I'm the only one living. Yeah.
But men, as we know, need to be part of this conversation.
Yes, 100%.
Willing agents of change.
Yes.
Do you think, Khalfan, that men fear this agenda, fear that they're going to lose because of the increasing prominence of women in all levels of the workforce? Because I get the sense that in some countries, that is worrying a lot of men who have been used to having things in the workplace and beyond their own way for so long.
I think only the unconfident men are the ones that are fearing this. Yes.
Confidence.
Yes, I mean, competition will always be there. It's not about men and women. Men and women complement each other. So if you have smart people around you, they raise the bar. So you need to continue to improve to become a leader. So whether it's a man or a woman, you need to improve yourself and to make sure that you're a proper leader. So I think confidence versus a man or versus a woman, you need to basically raise your level of competition to reach leadership. So for me, it's irrelevant, and you just need to be confident.
Okay. So when it comes to the Dubai Future Foundation, how many people do you employ?
Around 120.
120.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm going to ask you next?
50%.
50%.
Yes.
50%.
Yes.
And do we see that across the board, through the various levels?
Absolutely. I mean, we have 2 chiefs. We're talking about the Center of Fourth Industrial Revolution. The leader of this center is a woman, Maryam Batal-Mheri. She is heading it, and she was the one that actually led. Big round of applause for her. So you can see them in leadership and project management, and we're extremely proud of them.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So for the moment, we'll pause there. I'll give you a chance to get some water.
Yes.
And I'm going to look around the room to see if there are people here who've got something really thoughtful, a really interesting, deep, powerful question. Pithy, futuristic. Not a great big political speech, but something that was going to add to the knowledge here. And do we have microphones ready for those amazing people? We have. Okay. Now I'm just looking to see. Don't all rush forward at once. Don't worry, I won't hurt you. This is your first chance today to actually feed in. Yes, we have a lady at the front there, looking very confident. Please introduce yourself briefly.
No, not at all. I just had a question. And are we thinking, while we're talking about technologies, thinking of ethics, governance, protection of what's coming, actually, because it is a free world, but internet is also a free world, and we're talking about what is happening in the technology world.
Yes.
And are we thinking more about ethics?
Ethics and governance. Rana, I'm going to ask you about this because I know you've been looking at this and you're concerned about some of the human beings who are going to be inputting into the AI, but also the Wild West nature of this still ungoverned space.
Yeah, thanks, Danielle. Yeah, I think with AI, it's become very clear recently that a lot of attention needs to be paid to this. And for those of you who aren't familiar, for example, Google recently had to scrap their image recognition software. Amazon, because it wasn't, Google software wasn't recognizing black people as humans. Amazon had to scrap their recruitment tool because it was discriminating against women. It was screening out their CVs. It was just ignoring women's CVs. And so why is this happening? And I think Pedro earlier this morning mentioned something. It's basically how you train the AI, how you train the machine. So the data that's being inputted is flawed, and the people inputting the data are not diverse. And what that does is it perpetuates this bias, and it doesn't create inclusive machines. Because the reality is that 80% of the coders today are male, and a lot of them are white. And what that means is their unconscious biases and their blind spots, I mean, they don't know what it's like to be a woman, right? They can't imagine a scenario. They wouldn't think to. It's not intentional on their part. They just wouldn't think to. And men and women have very different experiences, even when we're speaking, or even when you walk into a bank, or when you're pitching an idea. We have very different experiences. But these tools, the data that was being inputted into these machines was missing a lot of sort of critical data that has resulted in very biased results. So to answer the question, I think a lot of attention needs to be paid to who's coding and what data is being inputted, and definitely there needs to be an ethics committee. And I'm going to just digress a little bit from AI, because this has to apply to social media. I don't know if any of you have been following social media recently. There's been some horrible things. A lady in the UK just committed suicide because she was bullied by the media. And I really think that this is going to drive a lot of focus on what's on this ethics question of what's allowed in the media.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Khalfan, any further thoughts on the ethical dimension?
Yes, I think just one key word, I go back again to being united and being inclusive, because in order to solve the ethics issue, we need more people to sit in the room to align and understand what is allowed and what is not allowed. I was personally in the World Economic Forum in Davos a couple of weeks back, and this was a big discussion, and we're continuing this discussion in a technology, governance, and ethics summit in San Francisco in April, which shows that there's extreme importance to get more people in the room to understand how we can control this. As we go more into the fourth industrial revolution, we'll see there's more dependency on data. There's more impact that will happen from social media actions, from the involvement of artificial intelligence. So I think the more we collaborate, the more we decide on what's right and wrong, and the more we embrace technology and the data policies for the benefit of humanity as a priority, the faster we'll reach a solution. But it's not easy.
No, it's going to be very difficult.
And these conversations need to keep happening at Davos, where Danielle is, we at multilateral levels, at multi-government levels. This has to be, I think, a global strategy.
Especially where power lies.
Right.
Yes, very good. We have another question. Do we have a question from over here? Lady there, then I'll come back to you. Let's spread it around the room. Yes.
Alaikum salam.
Peace be upon you, Maryam Zahabi.
Panel, we really enjoy it. I have a question. For the past years, a lot of society was helping women in the urban areas and women with a low income to help them generate an income through the craft businesses and taking it to the market. Now with the IA and all these artificial intelligence and advancing technology, what do you see the future of these women? How you could sustain their source of income with this whole change in the economy?
Are you worried that these women will be left behind?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Judge? Okay.
I think that's a fantastic question, something to think about. I mean, everything that I've read, and maybe Khalifa, you can jump in here, is that jobs will be lost and a lot will be created. And so the question is, where do those lie? So I looked at, for example, just last month, the World Economic Forum released a report on where are the jobs of the future going to be. And actually 37% of the jobs of the future in the next 3 years, by future I mean in the next 3 years, near future, very near future, but 37% of those jobs are going to be in the care economy. Care, so nursing, fitness, things like that. So that's where the new jobs are coming in. I have some more stats, and then sort of 17% in sales and marketing, 16% in data and AI. I don't want to bore you with numbers, but the point is that jobs will be lost, but others will be created, and that's, I think, really important to remember.
Absolutely, and it goes back to adaptation. At the Dubai Future Foundation level, this is the main role of the Dubai Future Academy, to focus on what are the jobs of the future, how can we educate humanity for all challenges that humanity will face, whether it being getting ready for new technologies, whether it's also mindset shifting.
Well, Khalfan, how do you reach those women who presently are left behind, who are on the wrong side of this digital divide? They may not have even access to a smartphone yet.
Yes. So I think that's key, even though smart devices had made it much easier, and we've seen this through the 1 million Arab coders program, where actually candidates and students of the program have actually moved from areas where they had no internet access all across the MENA region to areas where they had internet access and they've applied for the job. So it is a struggle, but I think the digitization and the availability of more devices and internet is making it easier for us, but it is a challenge that we're facing.
And another point that the report makes is that a lot of these jobs will require digital skills and human skills. Yeah. So they're saying we need to pair tech with creativity, with adaptability, with emotional intelligence. So a lot of the jobs of the future, at least that's what, I don't know if it's wishful thinking, but this is what the report says, is that we need those human elements. Because Absolutely. AI, what you're talking about, craftsmanship, they're not going to come up with the idea of how I'm going to embroider that abaya. Right?
Absolutely.
So I hope and I believe that jobs of the future do need both.
And what we do in the academy is exactly what you're saying, focus on the creativity angle. So it's definitely a spot-on comment.
Excellent. We have another question. A lady in the blue, was it, I think? Microphone coming to you. We'll take 2 questions, and a lady in the front as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much for an interesting panel. My name is Ulrika Hedlund. I'm a Swedish tech entrepreneur living in the UAE since 13 years. So, like you rightfully said, technology brings both threats and opportunities. And I see a lot of threats in terms of cybercrime. Mm-hmm. Criminals today aren't the burglars that rob you. They are the ones that go online and through ransomware lock down your entire company and ask you for money. And for this, I feel that law enforcement within countries, it's not enough, because these crimes are international. You don't know where they are. So what are you seeing, and what do you believe that we need to see in terms of a global internet police, if you will?
All right, thank you very much indeed. And then let's take a second question while you're thinking of the answer to that one. It's a big one. Yes, hello?
Hello, I'm Tess Pereira. I'm quite interested in knowing how we can implement emotional intelligence for the future generations, specifically the ones who are going to be doing the coding for AI, etc. Because we need to introduce a human element into AI and future technology. How would we go ahead and implement this in the future?
Are you saying this because you're concerned that it's not being inputted?
Yes. Now, in the present time, emotional intelligence isn't as valued as academic intelligence. So how in the future are we going to future-proof and improve emotional intelligence?
Okay, well, let's take the emotional intelligence one first. We've addressed it a little bit already.
I'll take the second one.
Okay.
So one of you can do the emotional intelligence, the other one can do the internet, the cyber police.
Sure, he's cyber police guy.
Cyber police. gender roles here.
He's Russian bot guy.
Well, he's part of a troll farm
Yeah.
in UAE.
Emotional intelligence. I believe that emotional intelligence is women's competitive advantage. I believe it's humans' competitive advantage. And that's something I think that it's not just me. It's not just my bright idea. I think the world recognizes that. And I think it ties into the way the education system is changing and evolving. So everywhere you go, the conversations are happening. Well, we don't even know what the jobs of the future are, right? I forget the number, but like most of the jobs in 2020, 2030 don't even exist yet. Yeah. So how can you equip our Gen Z or the younger than Gen Z? How can we equip them to fulfill roles that we don't know are going to exist? And so those answers that are turning up, and if you talk to the people who work in education, is, well, adaptability and emotional intelligence are two of the things that are being focused on. So now that is becoming more and more part of the educational agenda, is, well, how do we nurture that and how do we foster that? And I think it's a process. I don't know if
I can add to that as well before becoming a policeman, but
yes.
I'll focus. So I think there's so much emphasis on emotional intelligence, and without really revealing the content of the Museum of the Future, which will be opening its doors sometime in Expo, I'll give you a bit of a teaser that it actually focuses on this component, because we tend to talk about technology and advancement of AI and focus on this side of things, but at the end of the day, we're human beings, and human beings are a massive part of the future, whether technology is there or not, and we know technology is there, but the human being is there, emotional intelligence is there. The fact that technology is becoming heavily involved, we need to make sure that the other side is also well prepared for the future, so there's a lot of emphasis on that, and to your point, a lot of attention paid on the emotional intelligence side.
Okay, just give us 30 seconds on
policemen?
Global policemen.
Okay.
Can I just inject one thing on the emotional?
I'm just looking at the clock.
Sorry,
Yes.
okay, I'll be real quick.
We haven't got much future left.
So just on the question of emotional intelligence, I just want to make the point that it's not just like hoo-hoo, ha-ha, soft and fuzzy, and we all, it's not like that. So Jack Ma, who's the founder of Alibaba, the biggest one of the biggest companies in the world, Jack Ma himself has said he's a Chinese billionaire. He's not a warm, fuzzy guy. He's a Chinese tech billionaire. And he has said, look, if you wanted to succeed in the last decade, you needed intellectual quotient, IQ. If you really want to succeed going forward, if you want to succeed in the next 30 years, you need EQ, emotional quotient. Yeah. But if you want to succeed beyond 30 years, you need LQ, love quotient.
LQ?
So LQ. So this is, it's part of a process. It's an evolution.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Policeman.
20-second policeman. Yes. So the fastest answer I can tell you is we have a project or an initiative in the Dubai Future Foundation called the Regulations Lab. And the idea of this project is to amend the regulation in favor of innovation. Now, with the advancement of innovation and technology, there's the risk of cybercrimes and those issues escalate. And the only way to solve things like this is to have gatherings like this and to have people from all over the world come and discuss how can we really solve those issues. You mentioned the word international police. In order to get something internationally, you need those international people to be with you in the room. So I think it's more gatherings. Every country should test at a country level, and whenever the risk becomes significant, there needs to be a global collaboration in global councils, whether it's the WEF Future Councils or we have an initiative called the Dubai Future Councils, but it's all about sitting together and highlighting agendas and coming up with tangible action items. So we have the regulation lab at our level, but this is not enough to solve a global challenge. So we can come up with a report, but the idea is to really sit down in gatherings like this and come up with big initiatives that are tangibly managed.
Fantastic. I think we're only just getting started. However, time has beaten us. We're going. I know one or two hands going up now, but I'm so sorry. However, you can keep in touch with our excellent speakers. And here's how. One of them does an award-winning podcast, which is the #1 podcast in this region. She's sitting on my left. Tell people how, and maybe they should subscribe today to your podcast.
Please do. Please do.
So?
Yeah, all podcast apps. It's called When Women Win. Subscribe, rate, review. Please enjoy it. It's a free resource designed for you. It's only for you to help you. So I really hope you take advantage of it.
So that's Rana and Nawas, hosts of When Women Win, and Khalfan Belhoul. But how do you have a podcast, Khalfan?
I don't, but I have one last message for the women. I think this message is actually not for the women, it's for the men. I think the men need to get their acts together and catch up with what the women have been doing in the region. So, and this applies. You've seen leadership and government role. Women have been. We're proud of them, and we need to actually catch up to what they have achieved. So we always wish them the best, and we're big supporters and fans of them.
Khalfan Belhoul, CEO of Dubai Future Foundation, and Rana Nawas, When Women Win podcast host. Thank you very much. That concludes the plenaries for today. See you later or tomorrow morning, bright and early. Enjoy Dubai. Thank you.